My husband knit me this sweater 27 years ago. Isn't it fantastic? I actually love it. It was a Christmas gift from him, and he had no idea how to knit, not a clue. But he asked someone at the college that we went to teach him how to knit so he could make this special gift for me. Of course, he made a lot of mistakes along the way. He's a first-time learner, just learning how to knit, and he may or may not have made the neck a little bit tight. It may or may not rip my ears off when I pull it on my head, but that is not the point. The point is that he attempted to do something that he had no idea how to do. He learned a new skill that he had no inkling to before this, and he accomplished something he never thought he could. That leads me into talking about today's topic, which is emotional intelligence. Now, the wonderful thing about emotional intelligence is that it is different from our intelligence quotient, our IQ, in that it can be learned, it can be honed. You can practice the skills of emotional intelligence, actually improve in all of those areas. So that's good news for us. We're gonna go a little bit deeper into this conversation coming up right now. I'm gonna give you quite a few resources at the bottom, so make sure you check the links below because I know a little bit about this, but I'm definitely not the expert in this area. But if you check out Daniel Goleman's work on emotional intelligence, you're going to learn a lot from him. So make sure to check the links below. I've also highlighted some books below that are fabulous reads that can help you learn a little bit more about this topic. So when we're talking about emotional intelligence, we're looking at 5 basic factors. You're looking at self-awareness, self-regulation, motivation, empathy, and social skills. Years ago, I actually used to be an emotional intelligence coach. So I was hired by the gentleman who actually was my supervising therapist when I was a marriage and family therapist. So what he did was approach some companies and ask if they wanted to be involved in this program. Basically what we did was we took people, they answered a really intense and in-depth emotional intelligence questionnaire, which I've also linked below. So if you'd like to do this, it's quite in-depth. Make sure you check those links below because this will help you. But so we had them answer this questionnaire. So they answered it based on all of these different competencies of emotional intelligence, things like empathy and motivation and all those things that I just said. And they answered the questions, their employer answered the questions, their colleagues answered the questions, and their peers, so friends and family, answered the questions. And what was amazing to me was that there was always 1 or 2 areas where the person who filled out the questionnaire thought, you know, I'm like a 5 out of 5 in empathy. I have got empathy going on. I rock at it. I'm really empathetic. When someone's having a problem and a struggle, I'm there for them and I know exactly how to be empathetic. And then I would look at the test scores from the employer or the friends and family or the colleagues. And no, you weren't. You have 0 empathy according to everyone else in your world. So that was an interesting component, is that oftentimes we view ourselves quite a bit differently than the people in our world, in our circle who are closest to us view us. And so then there's the work, right? If there's a discrepancy in how you see yourself versus how others see you, then those are the areas that we can improve upon. And then what we would do is give them things to work on. So I'd get them to tell me stories about how they thought that they were empathetic or the last time they showed empathy to a friend or a colleague. And then we do a little coaching and counseling on how to improve upon that. And then they work on that for 3 months and then we meet back to see if they've improved on that skill. But that is the beautiful part, is that you can increase in your emotional intelligence. And the benefit of that is tremendous to the workplace, to your family life, and to all of your relationships. I know Daniel Goleman was trying to really instill a push to teaching children at a young age in elementary school skills in emotional intelligence, because that's where it's learned, that's the foundation. And unfortunately, sometimes we don't grow up in that culture. We don't grow up in a family that cares about that or has the skills or knows how to do that to teach us. And so young kids grow up into being non-empathetic teenagers, unmotivated teenagers, which turn into being that style of adult. So it starts with children. It starts with teaching them to be aware of their own emotions. So when there's an episode and they have a tantrum and they get intense and they get angry and freaky, that's a great moment to teach them what's going on inside of them and why they feel the way that they do. So let's just quickly move back to our 5 points. Let's start with self-awareness. How can you increase your self-awareness? One of the ways to do that is to maybe write in a journal. Write out your feelings, write out your thoughts about what you're feeling about certain things when they happen. A really good identifier of something going on inside is when you have an intense reaction. So if you respond in a way that's heightened, that's intense, those are moments to begin to pay attention and to really be aware about what's going on inside of us. Self-regulation is all about staying in control of our emotions. Are you able to do that, or do you experience a freak out or a flip out when you pick the wrong grocery store lineup? A great way to improve your self-regulation is to practice being calm. Now, have you heard of that app, Headspace? That's a great app. I've linked it below, but you can take moments to actually just be present, mindful, meditate, and practice being calm. Another great way is to actually practice in intense environments, okay? So say you are in a grocery store lineup and you picked the wrong one. These are great opportunities to actually practice calming yourself down, to paying attention to your breath, to breathing through that anxiety, to having some good self-talk. But it's really moments where you can practice regulating those emotions and not allowing the emotions to take you away. Motivation is the third one. So motivation is having a set of goals, having something that you're working towards, and having really high standards for attaining those goals. I think one of the ways that we increase our motivation is to really examine your why. Why are you doing this? What is the profound reason in your life that you're doing what you're doing in that moment? Being motivated requires being hopeful and optimistic. So ensuring that your self-talk and your outlook on whatever situation you're in is positive is really key. Every time you face a challenge, try to find something positive in the situation. There's always some way, somehow, that we can grow from the challenges that we have. So look for those things that help you grow and highlight those in your mind. Now, number 4 is empathy, and sometimes we get empathy and sympathy confused. Brené Brown has a wonderful little video that really highlights the difference between the two, so I've linked that below. Make sure you check that out. One of the best ways to see empathy is to actually consider what life would be like in someone else's shoes. When I was a therapist, I remember my supervisor Dave saying to me, the only difference between you and the person on the couch across from you is that you've got a little bit of luck. That's basically it in the place that you're in. And so you should never think that you're better than anyone else that comes into your office. You could be exactly where they are with the problems that they are suffering from if you were in their shoes. And so having that mindset, just thinking, you know what, it's just a little bit of luck that differentiates me from this person across from me who's having these issues. And so if you can put yourself in their shoes, you create this sense of empathy within you that says, you know what, if I were where you're at, I'd be having a struggle too. And people need to hear that. And I think that's what causes connection between people. And finally, having improved social skills is really huge. It's huge in our relationships. It's huge in our workplace. Are you able to walk up to someone and praise them for the things that they're doing right? Do you have the skill to be able to do that? Do you have the skill to walk into a room and know when to speak and when not to speak? We can also improve our communication skills. You can take courses, you can take classes, you can go on lynda.com and take a class on learning how to public speak and learning how to communicate. You can read that book, 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, linked below, and learn the skills on how to communicate with other people so that you can hear them and you can be heard as well. See, this is why I love emotional intelligence. There's so many facets, and all of them you can learn and you can practice and you can get better at. And when we dial all of this in and we spend some time growing and nurturing this part of ourselves, we become better people overall. Okay, well, if you want to grow in this area, if this is something that really resonates with you and you're like, you know what, I want to take the next step, my friend David Phillips has put together this emotional intelligence questionnaire. It's really in-depth. It takes you through all of the competencies of emotional intelligence and gives you insight and input on how to increase and improve upon those things. So I've linked him below. Now, it does cost $50 for that, but so again, this is like, I'm really interested in improving and changing and growing, and I want to go a little further, then feel free to go ahead and click on that link. You can learn a lot on your own though too, and I've provided you tons of resources below, so make sure you check that out and do a little work on yourself and move forward in your wellness in this capacity. All right, if you've missed any other of our wellness tips, make sure that you click or tap the screen right here for their playlist. That's our wellness playlist plus our wellness week workouts, and I encourage you to check that out and make sure that you move daily in your fitness, wellness, and nutrition.